Guys, we have some amazing news for crypto. Crypto might be able to win a huge political victory, and we might just get a lot of those policies that we actually want. Now, it actually is coming from the shutdown. And no, it's generally not good for the economy because air travel is definitely going to be stunted because a lot of those TSA agents are going to be out, and a lot of public employees are going to go on furlough, which means they're not going to be paid. So there's going to be a lot of havoc and panic. That's not why crypto is going to win a political victory. The political victory comes with ousting McCarthy. Now, it's a very, very long shot that this happens, but Matt Gaetz, like one of the most MAGA people, is actually talking to Democrats about like possible candidates to actually replace McCarthy. And McCarthy, because of the whole impeachment thing, has actually done a lot to discredit himself with Democrats. So they might actually side with Gaetz to oust McCarthy. But if you oust McCarthy, you have to have a viable candidate to replace them, which the GOP doesn't right now. So Matt Gaetz actually suggested Tom Emmer to actually replace McCarthy. Now, the reason why I say it's a really, really big long shot is because it's very unlikely that the Democrats are going to vote for a MAGA candidate to actually replace McCarthy. Because obviously, like they're not going to vote for someone that's even more to the right than Kevin McCarthy. But McCarthy is being seen as untrustworthy and completely ineffective and incompetent. So they actually might side with Gaetz over McCarthy. I still think the safer venue for the Democrats is to actually side with McCarthy, give him the votes necessary to keep the speaker position, and make MAGA completely irrelevant because then their votes won't really matter as long as you have the majority. But the thing is, because McCarthy's actually lost so much credibility with Democrats, they might actually side with Gaetz. Now, Gaetz would actually have to compromise and actually give them a lot of concessions to get their votes, to get his guy into place. And so far, Gaetz has said he's not going to offer any concessions. So that by that fact, I think it's quite unlikely it's going to happen because the Democrats aren't going to vote for Gaetz's guy or any kind of MAGA candidate without massive, massive concessions from the other side. And the thing is, like, they probably work with the moderates under and McCarthy and demand concessions from them before they go to MAGA because they're much more likely to get concessions from the moderates. The one of the most likely scenarios, I think, is after the government shuts down, because we are going to shut down. There's like a 95% chance we're going to shut down, at least for a little while, is that the moderate Republicans in the House will actually team up with the more moderate Democrats or with the main Democratic caucus. Just go around McCarthy and the MAGA people and force a procedural vote. And that will actually stopgap fund the government while they actually figure things out. That would be devastating for McCarthy because they just went around his leadership, which means he has no leadership power. I mean, he's being held hostage right now by MAGA, so he doesn't have any leadership power anyways at this point. So I don't really know what's in it for him to actually keep listening to those people. Because, like, he's not going to keep his speakership position. Like, one of their stated goals for the MAGA faction is to oust him, so he should really just stop trying to please them. But this does give a small chance for someone like Tom Emmer to take over the reins of power. And that would be really awesome for crypto. I actually hope this happens, but I think I give it like a 2% chance that it happens. Because if someone like Tom Emmer takes over the Speaker of the House, he will actually make crypto bills forefront. He has been one of the biggest champions of like crypto bills and crypto power in Congress. And if he actually takes over, I don't really know what he's going to do with the rest of policy. My guess is if he makes policy that's like two to the right, like the Senate's going to block it anyways, more or less. So I'm not really concerned with that because that's what happens when you have like a divided Senate and when you divide the House and the Senate, because the Democrats have the majority in the Senate, the Republicans have majority in the House, but the Senate is a razor thin margin, and there are actually Democrats that are actually pro-crypto in Senate. So they might be able to get it past the Senate. And if they get past the House and the Senate, I do actually believe Joe Biden is going to sign pretty much any bill, whether it's pro or anti-crypto, that comes across his desk, as long as it gets past the House and the Senate. Especially if crypto is part of another bigger compromise deal, that can definitely be it. And I do think if Tom Emmer takes over the House of Representatives, then Gary Gensler is going to be much more under fire than he is right now. So this whole like government shutdown FUBAR scenario thing might actually end up being a big political victory for crypto. Like I said, I give it a 2% chance because it's very unlikely that the Democrats are going to agree to work with Gaetz. It's much more likely that they agree to work with the moderate Republicans and actually like force a House vote on the floor. to get a stopgap funding bill passed. And the funding bill that's actually passed will probably look a lot like the compromise Senate bill that's actually come down rather than the House bill. I'm not going to go into the details of that. If you're interested in the politics of that, read those bills. They're there. You can actually see them. You can actually know what's in them. But essentially, like, there is a possibility we get a really, really pro-crypto Speaker of the House. And if that happens, it's going to be good for crypto, because I do think that he could actually pass like compromise bills, but attach like crypto riders to them to basically like overturn a lot of the stuff that Gary Gensler is trying to do. And the Speaker actually has a lot of power in the House. He actually does get to decide which bills actually come to the floor. And he could actually really push for the crypto bills. And like I said, the Senate's actually like divided enough where some of those crypto bills can sneak through, especially if they're bundled in with other bills. So there is a sliver of hope that there's something really positive will actually come out of this. Still not a big sliver of hope, but it's there. And it's actually unlike a lot of those moon boy predictions in crypto, this one's actually possible. Because like like Matt Gaetz, you might not expect it. He's actually been talking to all Democrats, not just the most centrist ones. He's been talking to the centrist ones, the traditional ones, and even the most conservative, most liberal and progressive parts of the Democratic Party. But right now, he hasn't actually given any concessions. And if he's not willing to give any concessions, he's not going to get their vote. But Democrats are considering like all options on the table, because what the MAGA has done right now is basically made the Democrats kingmakers in this case. If they side with McCarthy, then McCarthy actually has the power to actually just ignore the MAGA faction. If they side with MAGA, they actually can oust McCarthy. Now, it's much easier for McCarthy to actually side with him than MAGA to side with him, because McCarthy still has most of the Republican caucus behind him. And many of them are getting very tired of the MAGA people. So realistically, McCarthy only needs to pull about, like, I would say 20, 30 votes to actually like make them irrelevant. And Matt Gaetz needs to pull almost the entire Democratic caucus, like over 200 votes, to actually oust McCarthy and put his guy into power. But I'm saying there's a possibility it might happen because McCarthy has been so discredited. The more incompetent Kevin McCarthy seems, the more likely they will actually side against McCarthy. And McCarthy is going to have to be willing to give a lot of concessions as well to get the Democratic caucus on his side. And I'm not really sure if he's willing to give those concessions, because he either needs the MAGA people on his side, which is not going to be possible because they literally want to oust him. That's one of their stated goals. So they're not really going to back off on that. Or he needs like 20 or 30 moderate Democrats on his side, which is a lot more likely at this point. I mean, like, he's had several run-ins with the MAGA faction, and there's been like shouting matches behind closed doors, I've heard. So realistically, like, that's not really an option. I think the moderates are getting pushed closer and closer to actually making a coalition deal with the Democrats that goes around both MAGA and McCarthy right now. That's the most likely solution, but that's not the one I want. The one I want right now is to actually get Tom Emmer as in Speaker of the House. I don't really know, like I said, I don't really know how Emmer actually votes on other issues, but the one I really care about is crypto right now, and we know that he's like really, really pro-crypto. So it's going to be really good for crypto because he can put the stops on Gary Gensler being like a controlling member of Congress as Speaker of the House. But can Matt Gaetz actually pull together 200 Democratic votes? I don't know, man. Maybe it's like a snowball's chance in hell. But McCarthy is making Democrats more and more likely to side with Gaetz's faction, or to side with Gaetz's proposal, if Gaetz can actually stomach actually giving concessions, which I'm not really sure if he can at this point. I just can't imagine like MAGA actually striking a deal with even the centrist Democrats. And I definitely can't see them striking a deal with like the most liberal Democrats. But still, you know, stranger things have actually happened in Congress, and I did not actually see from 2 years ago, I could not see like the GOP completely collapsing on itself. And the thing is, like, the Biden impeachment, they might actually shelve because the hearings were like an absolute disaster for the GOP. Like, the GOP's own star witnesses basically came on and said they don't have any evidence against Joe Biden. So realistically, like, they might be able to give up part of that if they actually get their guy in office. It's very interesting how the political landscape is shaping up, and it might actually turn out in favor of both the Democrats and some someone like Tom Emmer, who would actually be very, very pro-crypto and bring a lot of bills to the floor to shut down Gary Gensler's business and also just to bring crypto out to the forefront of the United States. Because Emmer has been one of the most outspoken supporters of crypto. And this is worth tuning in for. So will McCarthy get ousted? Will Tom Emmer get his seat? Will Matt Gaetz be able to pull a miracle and pull 200 members of the Democratic caucus to vote for his guy? Find out on the next episode of Crypto Ball Z.